Napapansin ko kanina pa, mahilig kayo dito magturuan, kundi magturuan, maghugas ng kamay. Ang pinakala, sinabi niyo po, Secretary Loizaga, it was before your term.
Tagot ko kay Senator
They just want
Baton.
to know who issued the,
Yes, they're ready. They're ready po.
Ba't in-issue niya?
Kasi meron kasi kaming Department Administrative Order saying that when a quorum is had and then the presiding officer
Of the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change joined with the Committee on Local Government on the defacement or exploitation of the Chocolate Hill Natural Monument and other protected areas such as the Upper Marikina River Basin Protected Landscape, Siargao Island Protected Landscape and Seascape, and the Mount Apo Natural Park. We call this meeting to order. The meeting of the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change joined with the Committee on Local Government is hereby called to order. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the following Senator: Senator Nancy Binay, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, and virtually present Senate President Pro Tempore Lauren Ligarda. We have with us Governor Enrico Aristotel Omentado of the province of Bohol, Congressman Maria Vanessa C. Omentado of the 2nd District of Bohol, Governor Yvonne Cagas of Davao del Sur, and of course, the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Maria Antonia Loizaga. Okay. And then we will ask our committee secretary to acknowledge the resource person and all other invited guests. We call on Miss Eloisa Texon.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. For today's hearing of the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, we have the following resource persons. From the National Government, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, we have Secretary Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga, together with Yusek Ignatius Rodriguez, Undersecretary for Special Concerns and Legislative Affairs, Yusek Marcos Fergada, Undersecretary for Field Operations, Mindanao and Environment, Yusek Ernesto Adobo, Undersecretary for Legal and Administration, Yusek Jonas Leones, Undersecretary for Policy, Planning and International Affairs, Yusek Augusto de la Peña, Undersecretary for Organizational Transformation and Human Resources, Asek Marshall Amaro Jr., Concurrent OIC Director, Biodiversity Management Bureau, Asek Gilbert Gonzalez, Director, Environmental Management Bureau, Asek Arley Adorable, Concurrent Director, Forest Management Bureau, Mr. Nilo Tamoria, Regional Executive Director for Region 4A and Chairperson of the Protected Area Management Board for Upper Marikina River Basin Protected Landscape, Mr. Paquito D. Melicor Jr., Regional Executive Director for Region 7 and Chairperson of the PAMB for Chocolate Hills Natural Monument, Attorney Maria Mercedes Dumagan, OIC Regional Executive Director for Region 11 and Chairperson of the PAMB for Mount Apo Natural Park, Attorney Felix S. Alicer, Regional Executive Director for Region 12 and member of the PAMB for Mount Apo Natural Park, Mr. Nonito M. Tamayo, Regional Executive Director for Region 13 and Chairperson of the PAMB for Siargao Island Protected Landscape and Seascape. From the Department of Interior and Local Government, we have Attorney Juan Victor Llamas, Undersecretary for External, Legal, and Legislative Affairs. From the Department of Tourism, we have Yusek Shalimar Hofer Tamano, Undersecretary for Tourism Regulation, Coordination, and Resource Generation, and Concurrent Regional Director of Region 7. From the Department of Public Works and Highways, we have Engineer Fernando J. Talagasa, District Engineer for Bohol 2nd District Engineering Office. From the Land Registration Authority, we have Administrator Gerardo Sirios, together with Attorney Sonny Villarojo, Register of Deeds, Province of Bohol. From the National Water Resources Board, we have Attorney Rebian Giselle Diaz. From the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, we have Attorney Arthur Herman, Director, Ancestral Domains Office. From the province of Rizal, we have Mr. Crisol Nino Moredo, OIC Municipal Planning and Development Office, Municipality of Tanay. From the province of Bohol, we have Governor Erico Aristotel Aumentado, Mayor Conchita de los Reyes, Municipality of Carmen, Mayor Restituto Suarez III, Municipality of Sagbayan, Mayor Antonio Humawid, Municipality of Batuan. From the province of Davao del Sur, we have Governor Yvonne Hugas and Attorney Kirby Villarais, Sangguniang Bayan member, chairperson of the Committee on Tourism, Municipality of Bansalan. From the province of North Cotabato, we have Mayor Jose Paulo Evangelista, Municipality of Kidapawan. From the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, we have Dr. Teresa Mondita Lim, Executive Director. From the Upper Marikina Watershed Coalition, we have Ms. Ana Reyes, Acting Secretariat. From the Philippine Association of Landscape Architects, we have Architect Norman June Brito, President. From the Philippine Institute of Environmental Planners, we have Engineer Adolfo Encila Jr., National President. From the Masungi Geo-Reserve Foundation, Inc., we have Ms. Billy Cristal Dumaliang, Director for Advocacy. From the Captain's Peak Garden Resort, we have Ms. Julieta Sablas, Administrator. From the Montefrio Resort, we have Mr. Renante Salazar, owner. Montefrio Resort, we have Mr. Chevilito Quiñones, Resort Manager. That is all, Madam Chair.
We wish to acknowledge the presence of Senator Raffy Tulfo. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Isang makalikasang umaga sa inyong lahat. The committee hearing today is prompted by the public uproar over the viral image of resort facilities, including cottages, slides, and what appears to be an Olympic-sized swimming pool built at the foot of the tree of our cherished Chocolate Hills in Bohol Province. Indeed, the picture says it all. It exposes the stark defacement and desecration of our national treasure. The conclusion was immediate and clear. After all, the approximately 1,776 unique conical mounds that comprise the Chocolate Hill are not merely a tourist attraction. They stand as a UNESCO-recognized natural monument since 1988, form part of the Philippines' first global geopark as designated by UNESCO in 2023, and are collectively considered protected area under the expanded NIPAS Act of 2018. In quick response, Senators Binay, Villanueva, Legarda, and myself have each filed resolutions that reflect a shared urgency to address the issue. Senate Resolution Number 967, filed by Senator Binay, who chairs the Senate Committee on Tourism, calls for an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported construction of structures within the vicinity of the Chocolate Hills by Captain's Peak Garden and Resort in Sagbayan, Bohol, and the Bag-Agta Resort in Carmen, Bohol, with the end goal of preserving Chocolate Hills as a protected area and its status as a major tourist attraction. Resolution number 970, filed by Senator Joel Villanueva, also seeks an inquiry on the construction of tourist resorts in close proximity to the Chocolate Hills. It mentions that the expanded NIPAS Act prohibits defacing or damaging any natural formation or scenic value within protected area. It also raises a question on the PAMBI policy of allowing the use or development of 20% of the landmass of a hill. Hence, this resolution seeks to scrutinize the implementation of applicable laws, rules, and regulation governing protected area with a view of identifying gaps, if any, and introducing remedial legislation, if appropriate, to protect Chocolate Hills and other protected area, as well as hold officials accountable for approval of questionable projects. Resolution number 973, filed by Senate President Pro Tempore Legarda, emphasizes the need to review the existing policies, procedure, and standard to ensure the conservation and protection of protected areas in light of the approval by the Chocolate Hill Natural Monuments PAMBI of the construction of resort structure of Captain's Peaks in 2018 and the issuance of business permit by the local government about a year after, despite the absence of an environmental compliance certificate. Resolution number 976, which I filed, broadens the inquiry into the management practices, the presence of tenurial agreements, and the protection mechanism or the lack thereof accorded to the country's protected areas. This is in response to distressing reports of exploitation or defacement not only of the Chocolate Hill Natural Monument but also of other protected areas such as the Upper Marikina River Basin Protected Landscape in Rizal, the Siargao Island Protected Landscape and Seascape in Surigao del Norte, and the Mount Apo Natural Park in North Cotabato, Davao del Sur, and Davao City, to just name a few. We have also here a letter to include Mount Matutum Protected Landscape in the Senate inquiry located in South Cotabato, and also the Mount Banahaw in Laguna. Okay. To my mind, while the Philippine government has established a robust framework of policies, laws, and regulation for the protection of our protected area, there appears to be a deficiency in their implementation. Therefore, there is a need for greater efforts from those responsible to protect them as well as from all of us Filipinos to safeguard our protected areas. Complementing the above-mentioned 4 resolution is the privileged speech delivered by Senator Tulfo on March 18. He raised concern about the presence of illegal structures, the conduct of illegal activities at Mount Apo, which is a protected area under RA 9237, and the inadequate action by Mount Apo's Protected Area Management Board, even though there is an existing directive from President Bongbong Marcos to preserve Mount Apo as it vies for inclusion in the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites. He articulated that turuan ang kalakaran pagdating sa ating pangangalaga ng kalikasan, lamenting the culture of passing blame among government entities responsible for environmental protection, including the DNR. Senate Resolution, government units and PAMBIs, highlighting the lack of accountability and effective action. But the controversy surrounding the aforementioned protected areas may just constitute the tip of the iceberg. We have yet to uncover the full extent of the challenges facing our protected areas. Consider this: the Philippines has a total of 248 protected areas. 114 are formally legislated, 121 are initial components of the NIPA system, and 13 are established through presidential proclamation. It would not be far-fetched to believe that many of our other protected areas also face problems threatening their sustainability. I would tend to agree with that because we have also a protected area in our city of Las Piñas and Parañaque, and we are really being forced to really protect it because of the danger of ISF living in our protected area and the permit to do reclamation along our protected area. This inquiry could be an eye-opener, leading us to take definitive actions in the right direction for the conservation of our protected areas. Taking action now is essential, and this may well start with conducting a thorough survey, inventory, and recording of every structure in all our protected areas, alongside reviewing the documents and instruments that govern them to identify and rectify any inconsistencies with their intended protection. Thank you. So I would now recognize, after my speech, the opening statement of Senator Binay, Senator Bato de la Rosa, and Senator Tulfo on that order. So we recognize now Senator Binay.
Magandang umaga po, Madam Chair, at sa lahat po ng naririto sa pagdinig ngayon. Nitong nakaraang buwan, lubhang nabahala po tayo sa mga nagsilabasang mga video at post sa social media na mayroong swimming pool at ilang konkretong cottages sa isang resort na itinayo sa pagitan ng Chocolate Hills na idineklara ng UNESCO bilang kauna-unahan at natatanging global geopark sa Pilipinas. Bukod pa rito, kasama din ang Chocolate Hills sa protected areas sa ilalim ng National Integrated Protected Areas System Act. Kaya naman labis ang ating pagkadismaya nang makita natin na may mga istruktura pala na itinayo doon mismo sa Chocolate Hills na maaring makaapekto sa likas na yaman at ganda ng lugar. Kaya agad po tayong nag-file ng Senate Resolution number 967 dahil gusto nating malaman kung bakit pinayagang mag-construct ng mga konkretong istruktura sa Chocolate Hills sa kabila ng pagiging protected area nito. Umaasa po tayo na sa hearing na ito, magkakaroon tayo ng sagot mula sa DNR, PAMB, BEMO, PENRO at LGUs at maipaliwanag nila kung bakit nagkaroon ng construction at nabigyan ng permit ang mga resorts kahit na protected ang status ng Chocolate Hills. Maganda rin na tignan kung ano ba talaga yung ginagawa ng mga LGU para mapangalagaan itong mga protected areas natin. At kung aligned, harmonized at complementing sa kani-kanilang comprehensive land use plans, ang no-build zones, protection zones at buildable areas susog sa unique physical and geographical character ng isla ng Bohol at in line with the protection of the province geological heritage. Hindi po natin layon ang magturuan dito. But we want to know where the policy gaps are, the gray areas in laws and ordinances, the failure in coordination and implementation, and why mandates were not faithfully carried out. Bilang mga tagapagpangalaga ng kalikasan, hinihikayat ko po ang lahat na magbigay linaw at paliwanag tungkol sa kani-kanilang mga mandato at responsibilidad. Hanapin kung saan meron na pagkukulang sa mga ordinansa at batas. Alamin kung tama ba ang pagkakaintindi sa mga polisiya. Bigyang solusyon ang mga tampok at tawag pansing problema. At magkaisa ang lahat na may iisang layunin at paninindigan na protektahan ang ating kalikasan at mga likas na yaman. Our Chocolate Hills are more than just a tourist destination. It is a UNESCO site and a protected area. It deserves to be taken care of because they play a crucial role in our conservation efforts, utilization and management of our natural genetic resources. Being a globally recognized UNESCO Geopark and being at the forefront of efforts to conserve, restore, and heal the environment, the Chocolate Hills provide the template and guide for LGUs on how protecting and conserving natural treasures can translate into meaningful gains for our people and country. Maraming salamat po at magandang araw po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Senator Binay. Before we acknowledge Senator Bato de la Rosa, I just want to acknowledge the virtual presence of Senator Bongo. Thank you very much. We now hear from Senator Bato de la Rosa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Davao and Bohol are for the longest time, popularly known as Mount Apo and Chocolate Hills, which are often reflected in the pages of our textbooks. During our plenary sessions, I am affectionately addressed by my dear colleagues as the gentleman from Davao and Bohol. I take this not only with honor and pride, but also with the responsibility to keep myself, like the above-mentioned natural land formations, in highest standards as a public official. Linggo bago natin gunitain ang Semana Santa, nagkaroon po ako ng pagkakataon na makauwi sa hometown ng aking ina sa Antequera, Bohol. Sinamantala ko na rin po ang pagkakataon na silipin ang resort sa gitna mismo ng Chocolate Hills na kamakailan lamang ay naging laman ng mga balita. Kumpirmado, naroon nga po ang resort sa pusod ng Chocolate Hills. The Mount Apo Natural Park, on the other hand, hit so close to home. I grew up in Santa Cruz, Davao del Sur, at seeing Mount Apo towering upon Davao region continually watching over us. Umaasa po ako na sana'y mabigyang linaw ang ilang mga isyu na ating didinggin ngayong araw. Ano po ba ang ating mga namamayaning polisiya o prevailing policy hinggil sa paggamit ng ating mga public domains? Mula pa po nung ako'y bata hanggang magsilbi ako bilang sundalo at mamalagi ng mahabang panahon sa kabundukan at paanan ng Mount Apo, nagkaroon po ako ng pag-unawa na tayong mga tao ay nakikiraan lamang sa mundong ito. Hindi maikakaila na may hindi mapapatid na ugnayan ang kalikasan at tao. I wish to hear from our resource persons in the course of this hearing, ano ang mga gagawin natin upang masiguro natin ang tunay nating naaalagaan ang ating mga likas na yaman, proactive, not reactive. Our national monuments and protected areas must unite us, not divide us. May mga nababasa kasi akong komento, Madam Chair, na nagsasabing, ang mga Bulanon ra ang nakahibalo kung unsa ang maayo para sa Bohol. Meaning, only the Boholanos know what is truly good for Bohol. Parallel to that, others might also say that only those from Davao City, Davao del Sur, and Cotabato province know what is best for Mount Apo. But I disagree, Madam Chair, very strongly. Issues like environmental protection and biodiversity requires and demand a unified approach. Hindi pwede dito ang idya-idya, aho-aho. Sa Bulanon pa. O sa Tagalog, kanya-kanya. Magkakaisa tayo dapat dito. Thank you, Madam Chair, for calling this hearing, as well as my colleagues for heeding the urgency of these matters. As a Bulanon and Dabaonon, but most of all, as a Filipino, I am deeply grateful. And kalimutan ko pala magitin, Madam Chair, yesterday, I was also invited by the good Secretary of Denr, Secretary Luisaga, to join his team. Nag-inspection rin kami doon sa Mount Apo National Park. Kahapon lang po. Yun lang, Madam Chair. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bato de la Rosa. We now recognize Senator Raffy Tulfo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ang DNR, ang ahensya ng gobyerno na natasang pangalagaan at bantayan ng ating kalikasan. But because of recent events, lumilitaw na ang DNR ay isang ahensya na matatawag kong bantay sa lakay, turo-turo style. Bakit po turo-turo style? Nagtuturoan. Kapag kami po ay tumawag sa DNR para mag-usisa, mag-imbestiga tungkol sa mga illegal structures, tungkol sa mga paglapastangan sa ating mga kalikasan, nagtuturoan. Ito pa po ang pinakamasakit at nakaka-insulto. Ito pong DNR Freedom Information Manual, hindi ko alam kung kailan nilabas ito, na kung saan ipinagbabawal ang DNR na magbigay ng impormasyon tungkol sa mga nag-a-apply ng ECC at mining. God damn. Is this of national security concern? Kaya bawal sa inyong Freedom of Information Manual, bawal kayo magbigay ng impormasyon tungkol sa mga nag-apply ng ECC at mining permit. Unang lumabas itong kalokohan sa Bohol, Chocolate Hills. After my expose yan, nakatanggap ako ng maraming sumbong tungkol sa paglalapastangan naman ng kalikasan sa Digos, Davao. 97 na mga structures na naitayo doon. Out of those 97, there are few na na-issue ng ECC. But marami doon ang hindi pa. At patuloy pa rin nagpapatayo ng struktura. At nang tumawag po kami kung anong gagawing hakbang ng DNR, we were told, bigyan daw ng 2 years palugit para pagdesisyonan nila kung isasara ba ang dapat isara o hindi isara ang dapat hindi isara. Again, hindi ho ba kabalastugan na naman yan? Now, meron naman po ako natanggap na sumbong. Sa Bohol pa rin. Ito po ang isang shipyard na kung saan 19 hectares po na mangroves ang sinira para mapagpatayo ng shipyard doon. Now, alam ko na ipinagbabawal ang pagputol ng mangroves. Base po sa Republic Act noong 1990. Pero bakit po pinayagan ang pagpapatayo ng isang shipyard sa Bohol? Bakit po nabigyan ito ng ECC? Ngayon, magkaharap-harap tayo. Sana wag ho kayo magturuan. Dahil it will be an insult to us here, Senators, na in front of us, magtuturuan pa rin kayo. And I'm happy na nandito Secretary Yulo Loizaga, na I'm sure yung mga katanungan ko namin tungkol sa paglapastangan sa ating kalikasan ay masasagot ng maayos. Black sand mining sa Zambales. Nung last budget hearing, Secretary Loizaga, na pag-usapan natin to, and you did promise na you look into it, or better off, ipapahinto yun. Anak ng dagat. Sana ba? Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang paglapastangan sa ating black sand sa Zambales. Ito pang masaklap. Libre na nga ang pagmina nila ng black sand doon, karamihan ay from China, and then ibinebenta pabalik sa ating gobyerno. Anong klaseng kabalastugan po yan? Ibinebenta sa reclamation dyan sa Pasay at sa iba pang mga reclamation sa iba't ibang parte ng Pilipinas. Kumuha sila ng black sand sa karagatan natin and then, ng libre, ibebenta pabalik sa atin. Hindi pa kalokohan po yan? You guys have to explain. Matagal na pong naging pabaya kayo dyan sa DNR. Hanggang ngayon, patuloy pa rin sa pagiging pabaya. Lumilitaw tuloy na kayo po yung mga protektor ng mga nagsisirang kalikasan. Masungi Geo Reserve. Bakit po nabigyan ng ECC ang Rizal Wind Energy Corporation o Vina Energy? Napakatagal na po na problema itong sa Masungi Geo Reserve. Hanggang ngayon, di po marisulba-risulba. Bakit? Sa ngalan ng ano? Sabi pa nga nila sa kanto, baka sa ngalan ng Tito Vic and Joey. Yung tatlong muka sa isang papel. Nung panahon yun, kasi hindi lang nga Tito Vic and Joey ngayon eh. Yan lang po, Madam Chair. I'll reserve my other questions later.
Thank you very much, Senator Tulfo. I wish to acknowledge the presence of Senator Padilla. Thank you. And meron daw opening statement po, virtual opening statement si Senator Bongo. We acknowledge Senator Bongo.
Ma'am, mamaya na lang po ako magbibigay ng statement. Madam Chair, mamaya na po ako magbibigay ng statement po. Salamat po.
Very much. Nasa biyahe daw. Before we start with our discussion, may opening statement. Wala daw. Thank you. Before we start with our discussion, may I first call on the committee secretary to put an oath the resource persons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I request our resource persons to please stand? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the Senate inquiry? Thank you. You may now take your seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now acknowledge Secretary Loizaga, because he asked that she be dismissed earlier, so we will give her a chance to say her piece before we start the question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honorable Senator Cynthia A. Villar, Honorable Maria Lourdes Nancy Binay, Honorable Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, Honorable Senator Rafi Tulfo, Honorable Senator Robin Padilla. Good morning. Honorable members of the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources and Climate Change and the Committee on Local Government. Colleagues in the DNR and co-workers in government, good morning. May I respectfully begin by thanking the two committees for initiating this public hearing to shed light on the reported exploitation and defacement of certain protected areas. This was highlighted by the recent discovery of a resort structure within the Chocolate Hills Natural Monument, a 13,994.95 hectare protected area and recognized UNESCO Global Geopark. Today's inquiry in aid of legislation into the status of and reported illegal structures within the protected areas is a testament to Congress's unwavering commitment to conservation and environmental stewardship, recognizing the critical importance of protecting and maintaining the natural, biological, and physical diversities of our environments, most notably within our protected areas. These protected areas serve as vital sanctuaries that support the web of life that consists of unique diversity of biological life and the land, air, and water that sustains them. These invaluable terrestrial, coastal, and marine ecosystems not only serve as crucial habitats for endangered species, they provide essential ecosystem services for food, water, and energy security, and they embody the specific culture, spirit, and identities that constitute our nation. While the intersecting ecological, physical, and social geographies have different boundaries, ultimately, the establishment of protected areas is legislative in nature. We respectfully recognize that these are therefore deeply in line with the authority of Congress to investigate and assess the effectiveness of the law in terms of existing protection and conservation measures in these areas, as well as to identify both old and new threats and propose and legislate amendments to the existing law to enhance this area's preservation. It was for this very same reason that Congress in 2018 passed Republic Act 11038, or the E-NIPAS Act, which increased the number of protected areas and provided strong conservation measures and penalties for its violations. However, in the past 4 years since its passing, the DNR has sought to implement its rules and regulations, contending with realities on the ground, including disasters and the pandemic. The E-NIPAS law has been tested against the context of rights that preceded its passing, the various national and local laws and formal and informal agreements that have altered the distinct landscapes and seascapes, the need for livelihoods and the support to the national economy, the challenges of inadequate budget, number of personnel with knowledge and capacity, as well as powerful influences and pressures, both benign and malignant. The Chocolate Hills was established as a protected area by RA 11038. It is a symbol of our national heritage, and this has become under scrutiny due to the construction of a resort facility that may have overstepped, in fact, legal and environmental boundaries. The Chocolate Hills are not only a figure of our nation's natural beauty, but also proof of our commitment to conservation. The presence of the resort facility undermines these values and threatens the integrity of the natural monument. Unfortunately, we believe our investigations will yield even more human-induced impacts on this fragile geological system. Our initial investigation has revealed that Captain's Peak Resort appears to be a titled property among the vast alienable and disposable areas within the area. Not only is there one title or two, we have discovered there is a third title involved. Its construction and operations are without the necessary environmental compliance certificate, a clear violation of the NIPAS Act and the Protected Area Management Board resolutions that have been issued. The DNR is also investigating various environmental violations, including those related to the Clean Water Act. On March 14, 2024, our regional offices have issued an indefinite cease and desist order against Captain's Peak Resort. Because of this, however, it has the effect of loss of livelihood. We have now facilitated the enrollment of the displaced employees of Captain's Peak into the Doles Tupad program in order to tide them over in the meantime while this process is undergoing. This is a process, together with Dole, that we hope to be able to replicate in other situations where there will be displacement. These actions and the continuing investigation of the PA demonstrate our commitment to enforcing environmental laws and preserving the integrity of the Chocolate Hills Monument. To date, there are 248 protected areas, as mentioned earlier by Madam Chair. These cover 7.4 million hectares. Given the vastness of this area, we humbly acknowledge the enormous challenge that the department has in addressing the conservation and protection of our biodiversity from species loss, given as we must take into account the impacts of climate change, human activities which may alter land and sea and coastal use, and bring about pollution. This mandate must be fulfilled by the DNR despite its resource limitations to ensure compliance and our limited enforcement capacity. Nonetheless, under this administration, we remain steadfast. When I assumed office in 2022, I made it clear that the continuing preservation of the country's indigenous species as part of our natural heritage, and at the same time we must harness these resources for the benefit of our country, would be one of the key elements of the department's shared vision. In closing, the department is fully aware that what has happened in the Chocolate Hills Monument is not in isolation. Other protected areas require investigations. In the case of Captain's Peak Resort, the proponent failed to secure an ECC, a necessary requirement under the NIPAS Act, in order to determine any potential significant adverse impacts of the project or activity on the protected area. While the present law allows development activities and special uses as ecotourism facilities, the provision of renewable energy and water supply within our protected areas, these are, however, subject to regulatory requirements and safeguards that the proponent should strictly abide to, namely, the alignment of the proposed project to the management plan of the protected area. The proposed project should be within the multiple use zone, and securing the PAMBI clearance and an ECC and an FPIC as required. These are in place to ensure that development does not come at the cost of environmental degradation and biodiversity loss. Realizing the occurrence of similar incidents in other areas, the department has come up with the following actions. First, I have instructed all regional offices to conduct an inventory of all existing structures within the PAs and evaluate the compliance thereof with environmental regulations and standards. And with the indulgence of the committee, Madam Chair, there are presentations on the different protected areas that have been mentioned. Secondly, regional offices were also enjoined to conduct a comprehensive review of all ECCs issued for projects within PAs. Third, there will be approval, the approval of by regional offices of ECC applications for projects within PAs is now suspended until further notice. And all pending and future ECC applications within the PAs will be processed at the EMB Central Office, and this must secure the endorsement of the Biodiversity Management Bureau. Fifth, it is also in this context that the DNR, the DILG, and the DOT issued a joint statement of collaboration, and Honorable Secretaries Abalos and Frasco and I have made recommendations on the approval process, including the composition of the PAMB. We respectfully acknowledge with thanks the strategic and operational partnerships with the DILG and the DOT on many intersecting environmental issues. Lastly, this year, I have also directed all regional offices to submit the complete inventory of all protected area community-based resource management agreements, or PACBARMA, and determine that those that are non-compliant and they must be recommended for cancellation. This is also in line with the ongoing collaborative efforts of the DNR, the DOJ, the DILG, the DSWD, in response to the Senate inquiry on Socorro, Siargao Protected Land and Seascape. The first phase of cancellations will be effected this month. We trust that these efforts will allow us to fully examine the actions of all stakeholders involved in the PAs, including not just the DNR, the PAMB members, the private sector, the NGOs, and the local government units and their constituencies. It's imperative that we establish the histories behind the facts, understand the implications of these developments, and take the appropriate legislative action to protect and conserve our protected areas. It is also imperative that we recognize that in environmental protection and conservation, there is no such thing as a monopoly on good. These are whole of society and not just whole of government efforts. We therefore respectfully urge that the two committees to support and ensure the passage of the bill creating an Environmental Protection and Enforcement Bureau, a long-term legislative measure that will strengthen the environmental law enforcement capacity of the DNR in our protected areas. As we proceed with these investigations, the DNR is committed to uncovering the truth that lies in the history of these challenges, holding those responsible accountable, instituting internal organizational changes which are already underway, and recognizing any legislative measures that the two committees may so propose. The effects of decades of past legislation, proclamations, specific human decisions, and powerful influences and pressures, both benign and malignant, cannot be undone in a matter of months. Under this administration, we will, however, work tirelessly to protect our natural heritage and enforce the laws designed to protect it. There are good men and women in the DNR. Without their efforts and our organizational transformation, we would not be able to do this job. We aim to further build an organization that is fit for purpose. We thank the Senate for its attention of these critical issues and look forward to a thorough and fair inquiry. And I beg your indulgence, and I wish to pay my courtesies to both Senator Lauren Legarda and Senator Bongo, who are present virtually. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning.
Thank you very much, Secretary Loizaga. First of all, we want you to give a copy to the committee of what the DNR have issued recently with regards to the protection, what you have mentioned in your
Madam Chair.
speech. And I just want to ask you one question. Is the Masungi contract, which is endless, di ba? No time frame, is that valid?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will turn over to our legal department, the head of legal, Yusek June Adobo. This is a matter of legal question, and we are aware of the circumstances that surrounded the signing of this contract. And we do have an opinion from the DOJ at this moment that actually says that it is unconstitutional. So if I may turn over to Yusek June Adobo. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair, with the permission of the Secretary. It's already said, our position, finding that the contract, that the MOA is infirm, illegal, was also sustained by DOJ. So it is, Madam Chair.
So what are you going to do?
We are in the process of canceling we recommended actually the cancellation of the MOA.
Madam Chair, the legal grounds for the cancellation are what we're calling voidance ab initio, given the advice of the DOJ.
What do you mean by that?
From the very beginning,
It is void from the very beginning, so it doesn't
Oh,
have
so
the
so
effect
it doesn't exist.
Ma'am.
If it's void, it
It
doesn't
doesn't
exist. Oh,
As
how
in-
come they are still there?
Madam Chair, if I may, there is a presentation that will recall the history of this place.
Okay.
And there will be, in fact, circumstances that will be revealed in that presentation that actually pertain to another entity called Blue Star Construction Company
Okay.
that is part of
So,
the history of the area.
You have a general PowerPoint ng DNR that you want to present.
Madam Chair, we will present the individual PowerPoints for each of the protected areas. So we can begin, Madam Chair, with your indulgence on the Chocolate Hills
Okay.
presentation.
Can
Thank
you
you, ma'am.
give us a copy of that PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am.
The
We will submit
committee, So we
everything.
can watch it even if we're not in the hearing.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, will the Secretary be staying after the PowerPoint presentation or aalis na po ba siya?
Be leaving at 12, di ba? Oh, so she will stay up to 12 noon. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, siguro before they start the individual presentation, but in general, what is the policy when it comes dun sa mga protected areas? Like permitting, ano ba talaga yung areas that can be developed for ecotourism? Meron ho bang ganung dokumento ang DNR that will be cascaded dun sa mga PAMBI within the protected areas?
Thank you very much for that question, Madam Chair and Senator Binay. There is a policy construction, and the implementing rules and regulations of the INAIPAS are actually the guidance for the different practices and policies. There are in the protected areas multiple use zones and strict protection zones. However, there are also other rights that will need to be recognized if they preceded the enrollment in the INAIPAS list. In the case of Chocolate Hills, as you will see, Madam Chair, of the 13,900 or so hectares, about 13,500 are actually alienable and disposable prior to the enrollment of the Chocolate Hills in the INAIPAS list. So those are some of the rights that we need to contend with, because there are titles that had been issued already historically. And I'll turn over to Yusek Adobo for the legal basis for that.
Yeah, but the question has been answered, Madam. Yes, we have regulations to follow.
And nati-check nyo naman ho yung compliance because, I mean, based dun sa nakikita namin dun sa mga protected areas, parang it's just a piece of paper, di ba? Parang wala akong ginagawa yung mga taga-DNR sa baba to implement yung supposed to be IRR in protecting the protected areas. Na in fact, katulad ho dito sa Chocolate Hills, kaya ho to pumutok kasi meron hong isang vlogger na pinopromote niya yung Captain's Peak para bisitahin. Di ba? Hindi pa nga dahil may concern tayong citizen to protect Chocolate Hills, but actually to protect the, to promote the resort. So, yun na nga, katulad doon ng nasabi niyo, Secretary Loizaga, I agree with you na there are plenty of good people sa DNR, but at the moment, hindi ho natin siya nararamdaman at hindi rin ho siya nararamdaman ng ating mga kababayan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And to respond to that, under the INAIPAS law, the construction and the membership of the PAMBI, the Protected Area Management Board, is vital to understanding why, in fact, the management of these areas is as they are. Under the law, there is a list of who should be the members of the PAMBI. And in different situations, there are as many as 100, 147 members, etc. The membership of the PAMBI is dominated by the local interests. The DNR sits as chair. It does not vote. And the PAMBI can be constituted when the DNR is absent or not available because there is another pressing engagement by the majority of the members. In the case of Chocolate Hills, it was the barangay officials that actually approved the resolution. And that is, in fact, one of the longer-standing policy changes we would like to propose, as well as a change to the legislation in terms of the construction and membership of the PAMBI and what its role should be.
That is my experience also in our legislated protected area. There are too many barangay captains. Why do you have to ask every barangay captain to be there? You can have one representative from the Association of Barangay Captains. Dito ang nagbigay ng ECC, yung barangay captain lang eh. Kasi ubot sa dami ng barangay captain eh. So ano malay ng barangay captain what is good for the environment? Sila yung pinakamadaling i-influence. In fact, in our city of Las Piñas, ang ini-influence ng gustong mag-reclaim are the barangay captain kasi madali silang lokohin. Oo. So, gusto nila mag-meeting kami at manalo yung mga barangay captain sa PAMBI meeting. Ako lang ang pumigil dun eh. Oo. Kasi I don't think it's fair. I don't think the barangay captains understand the damage that what they're going to pass at PAMBI would be disastrous to the protected area. So I think I agree with you that we should change the constitution of the PAMBI to give more power to those who understand the issues. Oo, kasi hindi nila naiintindihan ng issue. Kaya katulad dito sa Chocolate Hill, ang nagbigay ng permit on behalf of the PAMBI are all barangay captains.
Madam Chair, pag nagko-constitute ho ba yung PAMBI, yung barangay captain ho ba nagpe-prepare ng agenda?
Hindi. DNR.
Who prepares the agenda?
DNR.
Yung PAMO po, no? The PAMO
who-
serves as the secretariat.
Which
the
is part of the-
secretariat is the DNR.
So, hindi ho totoo yung sinasabi niya na walang alam yung DNR kasi you prepare the agenda. So, kung hindi kayo available, I mean, ano i-approve ni Kapitan kung hindi niyo gagawin yung agenda?
Tsaka tingin ko, may alam yung DNR at tsaka local government, kaya ang approve na lang yung mga barangay captain para hindi sila masisi. Gimmick yan eh. Oo, kaya ang pinag-approve nila ng yung mga barangay captain, kasi kung masisi yung barangay captain, walang effect yun sa kanila, di ba? Parang ginamit yung mga barangay captain to approve the PAMBI certification. Kung ikaw matalino, hindi ka papayag ng gano'n na mga barangay captain madi-decide what do you want to do with your protected area. I mean, tingin ko, kasi ang in a PAMBI meeting, ang secretariat is DNR. Kung ayaw maggawa ng meeting ng DNR, pwede naman nilang wag matuloy yung meeting eh. Patulad sa amin, sinabi ko sa DNR, tigilan mo ako dyan kung puro barangay captain ang haharap sa akin. Kasi member ako ng PAMBI, kaya I was asking Senator Bato na mag-active ka sa PAMBI ng Mount Apo para matakot sa'yo. Kasi pag ikaw simpleng barangay captain lang, hindi ka katatakutan eh. Kaya hindi kami nagmi-meeting ng PAMBI kasi alam ko na gagamitin nila yung mga barangay captain to approve yung whatever they want. Di ba? So, hindi na lang kami nag-meeting ng PAMBI. Ay, tanong mo kay Director Kaan-Kaan. Di ba sabi ko sa iyo, wag na tayo mag-meeting ng PAMBI kung yung mga barangay captain lang yan ang masusunod, di ba? O, imagine, i-outvote ang senator, congressman, ang lahat ng DNR, tsaka yung mga NGO. Kasi ang dami-dami nila. Like if it's 30,000 hectares, gano'ng karaming barangay captain ang kasali? Outvoted. Outvoted. So, ang masusunod barangay captain.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I know if the Constitution of PAMBI is nandyan yan sa NIPAS Act?
Yes po.
Nandyan talaga?
Nasa NIPAS.
So kailangan i-amend natin yung NIPAS Act na yan.
That's correct po. Meron po kaming proposal, in fact, at the end of the...
So Madam Chair, we would like to solicit their recommendation kung anong gusto ninyong amendment gawin natin para hindi tayo palaging ganun ang problema.
Yun nga. Kaya sinasabi ko, kasi nakita namin dito sa Chocolate Hills na nag-approve, puro barangay captain. Wala nang iba. Oh.
Yes, Madam
Tingin
Chair.
ko, ginamit yung mga barangay captain para makalusot Oh.
As instructed by the committee, we also prepared our position paper. And
But
in
sana,
there,
nung nagkakaganon na, we were given notice.
we proposed the
Nung
amendment
pa.
of the membership
Kasi
of...
this happened after the passage of the Inaypas Act of 2022 na hindi pa nai-implement kasi it took time for the Inaypas Act to be implemented. Ginawa nila before the implementation of the Inaypas. Binigyan nila ng clearance, di ba? O, anong date binigyan ng clearance? Before the implementation of the Inaypas.
There were... But the region can actually attest to this.
Kailan
no?
binigyan ng
There were
clearance?
two
Parang
resolutions
sinircumvent
passed
nila yung
in
Inaypas,
2012 and another one in
Time binigyan ng
2018.
clearance.
The Inaypas was passed on June 22, 2018. But to answer the question, and then, of course, to give light to the query of Senator Binay, Madam Chair, it is not all the call
Attorney, excuse
of
me,
the PAMO.
Madam Chair. Ganun mo yung microphone para marinig ka. Ilapit sa bibig yan.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
It is not all the call of the PAMO to initiate a meeting. Any member of the PAMB can call for a meeting when supported by the majority of its membership. A meeting can be had, an agenda can be tackled. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And with the case of dun sa Chocolate Hills, who initiated the hearing? Yung barangay captain?
The red of Region 7, by the authority of the Secretary, may answer the question.
Yes, please answer.
Yes, Madam Chair, good morning. It was the regular meeting, regular quarterly meeting. It is a scheduled meeting of the,
Yeah. Called by the DNR?
by the PAMO, yes.
So
Or
so sila yung gumawa ng agenda. Tama po ba?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes,
DNR pa din. Tama po ba, Yusek Adobo?
Madam Chair, we were not there at the, obviously, at the calling of the meeting. If I may.
But the DNR is in existence when this happened, di ba?
Yes.
And not all of the DNR officer were appointed, political appointments. Merong meron kayo na na dati ng mga ano tawag dito? Career. Oo. So yung career ang pa-answerin mo dito. It was approved in February 2018 before the implementation of the Inaypas Act of 2018. This one, a resolution endorsing the proposed Captain Peak Garden Eco Park Tourism. This was approved in February 2018. Ang Inaypas Act was implemented in July 15, 2018. Kaya, yes.
Madam Chair, if I may, whenever there's a meeting, the sheer number of the attendees will outvote even the DNR. So,
No, ma'am.
Yeah, I understand,
Ang
ma'am.
point is, kung hindi yun na agenda, walang i-outvote to begin with.
This is how the agenda is prepared. No? Any member of the PAMB can submit to the PAMO topics that they wanted discussed during
Sige, you said,
regular
siguro para mas
special
malino, can you just submit to the committee who initiated the permitting of Captain Speak and the others? Kasi parang pinapalabas niyo ho na, well,
Yes, ma'am.
na walang kasalanan yung DNR. Have you investigated? Have you investigated yung mga personnel ho? And have you done any preventive suspension with mga personnel of DNR?
As instructed by the secretary, yes, we have started our investigation.
Like for
We
example,
haven't,
yung sa ano ho, sa Surigao, Pakbarma, si Senator Bado did the hearing a year ago. Meron na ho bang na preventive suspension dun sa pagdating dun sa Surigao case?
Madam Chair, the case in Socorro actually is part of an ongoing collaboration with the DOJ, the DILG, the DSWD, and the DNR. We are at a point where we're actually canceling the Pakbarma, and there are now a joint effort by DSWD, DILG, and DSWD, and DIG, and the DOT to actually try and correct the situation in Socorro. We are going to institute a program for the displaced
Hindi, ma'am,
persons.
kasi parang ang dating ho kasi, kaya paulit-ulit yung violation. Kasi wala naman hong nakakasuhan. Walang nakukulong sa DNR. I mean, even a preventive suspension, parang wala ho kaming naririnig. May ganun ho bang, walang fear eh. Kaya I think tuloy-tuloy lang yung ginagawang mali. Kasi nga, walang takot.